What's up YouTube, this is Dr. David Song, and we're going to be talking about how I built my patient load. Not a lot of you know this, but I've actually been in practice for only about 2 years now myself. Some of you may already know me from my Instagram, Doc Dave Song, where I have about 150,000 followers now. And I've started that account when I started, or when I just graduated from chiropractic college. So, and I'm just gonna be talking about my experience and how I built it up. Right now, post-COVID, I do have a full patient load at one of my 2 clinics. The other one is building up again. But pre-COVID, both clinics, I had a full patient load, which means either between 85 to 100% of my schedule had patients booked in. So when I first graduated from chiropractic college, I really identified 2 main problems that I had to address. One, the bigger one was that no one knew who I was, and without anyone knowing who you are, then how can you expect new patients to come and get you? And then the second one was to increase my patient retention. So for the first one, I'm going to kind of talk about how I was able to increase my awareness or presence in the community. One, obviously I built up my Instagram. To this day, I still get a lot of patients coming in from Instagram. I get about 2 or 3 patients post-COVID right now a week just from Instagram alone. Some other things I've realized that you need to do is you have to do things for both the short term and the long term. And so for the long term, things like Instagram is great. Things like getting Google reviews really helped. Actually, just recently, I'm starting to get more and more patients through Google reviews. And that's because I've built up the number of reviews I have to over 40. So I tried to really push it towards double digits, but I'll expand about this a little bit more. So it goes without saying, the longer you're in practice, the easier it gets, just because you've treated a larger number of people, and they will then refer people to you if you're good. Which brings me to point number 1, get good. So if you suck at your job, or if you're not at least meeting your patient expectations, then you can't expect this person to return. And we'll talk about that in more of the retention component. And then you can't really expect them to refer anyone to you because their experience wasn't just what they wanted. And yeah, so a few things I did to kind of increase my awareness in the community. I did a lot of community outreaches. And for me, I considered it a success if I got 10% of return on that. So if I was doing a community outreach and there were 10 people there, and if one of them booked in with me on the spot, then I kind of consider that a win. This is a long grind, and I grinded hard in the beginning. I went to all the local gyms because I tend to specialize in people who lift weights, whether it be powerlifting, CrossFit, strength training, bodybuilding. That's who my target demographic was. So I made sure to hit up all those gyms and kind of gave them a free 1-hour workshop. And then if I got one person coming in, then I consider that a win. And that will both build your short-term and long-term community integration, because in the short term, you saw that one person, you did a great job. They'll tell the rest of the gym members who were hesitant at first that you did a great job, and they'll come in. But that's kind of going to be like a 3 to 4 month process before you see another referral, even longer sometimes, depending on whether or not they're injured, right? So I did try doing treatment demos and stuff like that for those coaches and trainers, but to be honest, the return on that wasn't that great, considering I had to spend 4 to 6 hours with that person to complete a treatment program. 1-hour sessions kind of thing, because I do a lot of movement in mine. And for me personally, I did not see a great return on that. Really, the ones that kind of did most of the referring were the clients themselves. So the coaches and trainers, not so much. That's just my personal experience. It might be different in your community depending on how tight you are with and how much rapport you built with the trainers and coaches. So that's kind of some of the stuff I did to increase my awareness. I did community outreaches. I did do a few bigger kind of like health expo workshops, but those did not give any return for me at all. And I think that's because many people come in from all over the place to those types of events, and they're not really in the local community on a consistent basis. And so because of that, you're not going to connect with them as strongly as you would otherwise. So that's my experience with that. But really, what I kind of focused in on, aside from that, was my patient retention. Because if you have better patient retention, then you're going to build more rapport with that patient, and you're more likely going to get a new referral lead from that person. So I'd say still to this day, most of my new patients that I get are referral based, or they're coming in from my social media pages. So those are my top two. And then kind of my third tier of lead generation is from Google reviews. So some things that I did that worked for me to improve patient retention was, after every session I have with a person, I always email my patient back with all of the exercises that we went over. So this really will depend on your type of practice. As a chiropractor that focuses on movement, I do go over a lot of exercises with the patient to give them for their homework. Emailing them, I find, increases the chances that they're actually going to do it. Personally, because I think a lot of people come to see me for the exercises, and so I actually have like close to 90%, even higher, I'd say, of my patients actually following through with their exercise homework. So I don't really have an issue with that. But again, that's because I built my brand up to be that way, and that took a lot of time to build up. I email my patients after every appointment. Usually I email them within 24 to 48 hours, and I let them know I'm going to email them within 24 to 48 hours. I usually link them to my own Instagram page where I create the exercise video for them, because some of the exercises I create are obscure in nature in that they aren't very generic. They apply to that patient at that time with their current issues, so they tend to be a little bit more specific. So sometimes I do give like the conventional dead bug, but then most often I do have to modify the dead bug for that one patient. And because it's so specific to them and that information is not really out on the internet, I record myself doing that version of it, and then I put it on my Instagram page, and then I send it to them. So that's what I kind of do right now. So that's how I both A, build up my Instagram presence, and B, increase my patient retention at the same time. It's kind of best bang for your buck. Other than that, when it comes to I want my patients to get better, and typically they'll get better within 6 to 12 weeks in the timeline, often sooner than the 12 weeks. Sometimes as quick as just 2 weeks, that's all they need, depending on the issue on hand. At this point, what do you do? Because they're all better, so you just discharge them. But more often than not, there are other goals that this patient has that you can help them achieve. So it's not just about getting them out of pain. Sometimes, since I work with a lot of athletes, it's not just about getting out of pain, but how they can move more optimally to kind of prevent them from experiencing this pain again. And so with that, you develop new goals once they're already completely recovered in terms of their pain. Just because they're out of pain, it does not mean that they're moving optimally. And so because of this, we set new goals, and then we work on those in the long term. Often I don't see those patients every week. I see them maybe bi-weekly or monthly, or even less than that, depends on what their goals are at that time. So you really got to talk to your patients when it comes to goal setting. There's no other way to figure out this information unless you straight up ask them, hey, after this pain is gone, what are your goals for yourself? And this is how I can help you with that if you're interested. And I always leave it up to them. I never force them. I don't use any fear mongering or anything like that. I like to take the positive role, the positive association with me helping them reach their goals, rather than me being negatively associated with them being afraid of losing what they have. So I actually find that the positive association is a lot stronger, and it gets the patients to trust you and to refer other people to you as well. So that's what I did with my, for long-term patient retention. Short-term, I email them so that they know their exercises. It's just a great way to follow up again with each person and see how they're doing. Okay, so for more of the long-term kind of brand building, or whatever you want to call it, there are a few things that I found very useful. What I do is every 2 or 3 months, I'll email some of my patients that I built a great rapport with and that got great results with, and I'll ask them to do a Google review for me if they haven't done one already. And this really helps with increasing your A, increases your rating on Google reviews, and B, it just gives you that social kind of confirmation that you know what you're doing, so that other people are aware. Nowadays, a lot of people, I find, just Google like chiropractor near me or best chiropractor. I'm in Toronto, so best chiropractor in Toronto, stuff like that. And so for that, if you pop up, you want to make sure you have great Google reviews, because it's kind of like shopping on Amazon at this point. You go through like 5 different products and you're like, which one had the top review for the best price? It like services work the same way. People will Google you, they'll find how your rating was, and then they'll base their decision on whether to see you or another competitor based on that. So you want to really make sure you get on your Google reviews. You can use other websites like Yelp or RateMDS, but to be honest, I don't want to be spamming my patients with like, hey, can you write 5 different reviews for me? I just rather like spearhead the one. And since I believe the top searches is always Google, that's the best way. And the best thing about this is if you're a practitioner like I am that's working out of another clinic, and you're not sure if you want to move to another clinic thereafter, if you create a Google review that's just under your name, you can change the address at any point. So let's say I work downtown right now and I put a bunch of Google reviews under my name so people search me up, and I want to, let's say, also move to another city a few years down the line, if that's your long-term plan, or even to another location a few years down the line, you can change the address of that Google business so that you don't lose and have to start from scratch again. So that's what I did over the last 2 years. You just kind of build it up and you just carry it with you depending on where you're going. My personal experience is that I worked at a lot of different clinics, and unfortunately a lot of them didn't work well for me, because some clinics wouldn't help me with my building my patient load, caseload, or just the brand of the clinic did not match my brand as a practitioner. And so because of that, I hopped around a lot at different clinics within my 2 years. I was probably at 5 or 6 different clinics within the last 2 years. Really 4 clinics in the first year, and then in the last year, I just stuck with the 2 new ones that I found that worked for me. And so because of that, I was able to slowly build my Google reviews over in that first year, and then just carry that with me to the new clinics right now. So I really recommend working on your Google reviews, and try not to spam like all your patients. Really, you just want to ask them in person when you see them, like, hey, you think it'll be cool since you're getting better or whatever, especially whatever you want to do, how you connect with your patient. That's probably the best way to do that. And like I said, all of this really depends on your skill level. You got to be good. Honestly, if you don't think you're good enough at your job, there's lots of ways to upgrade. If you just got out of school, then you can do what I did. I spent probably five grand on additional courses post graduation to make sure that I was at the level that I wanted to operate at. And so what that did is that it gave me a lot more experience that would have probably taken me like 5 to 10 years to build up, and then just crunch that down within that first year. Made sure I got good with my hands, I got good with my assessments, I got good with my exercise prescription, and even to this day, I still look for new courses because I still think I can get better. And your skill level is gonna be the long-term determination factor of whether or not you get busy. And in short term as well, because quite honestly, if you're really good at your job, you're going to get more referrals faster. And so you don't have to expend as much energy on advertising costs. I don't do any advertising. I spent nothing to advertise my services in the last 2 years. So everything that I built up was very organic. And so if you own your own clinic, you can actually decrease your advertising costs because a lot of your leads are just coming in by referral. So if that's the case, not only is getting good, even though in the short term you have to, like I spent $5,000 to get good, long term wise, you're gonna save a lot of money on ad spend because your practice just has a well-known brand in the community. Okay guys, so that's everything I wanted to talk about how I built my patient load. If you have any more like specific questions that you want me to go over, please drop a comment in the comment section below and I'll get on that. And yeah, I'm probably gonna do a follow-up video on this about how things have changed pre and post COVID and what I did to make sure my patient load was still full. All right, peace out.